Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, there's joy at the freeing of an American aid worker and French journalist, Olivier Dubois, who were held by extremists in the Sahel for years. Niger helped facilitate the release of the two highest-profile foreigners known to be held in the region. Also, a student killed in clashes in Kenya as police fired tear gas and water cannon at cost of living demonstrators called for by the opposition. And in Nigeria, more elections lead to more controversy. The ruling APC party appears to be set to clean up in gubernatorial races, but the weekend's polls were once again marred by accusations of intimidation just weeks after last month's controversial presidential vote. But first, an American aid worker held by Islamic extremists for more than 6 years and France's last hostage, a journalist abducted 2 years ago, have both been freed. The unexpected announcement about the release of Jeffery, Woodke and Olivier Dubois came on Monday as the men arrived in Niger's capital, Niamey. Dubois had been abducted in Mali in May 2021 whilst on his way to interview a jihadist leader in Gao. He was held by an al-Qaeda-linked militant group known as Jinim. He says that he is thrilled to finally be home.
It's a bit strange, all these microphones. Usually I'm the one holding them. It's incredible to be here, to be free. I didn't expect it. I want to thank Niger and its know-how in managing this delicate situation. And France, and all those who contributed to making today possible. Sorry, I'm keeping it short, but I just have to wrap my head around all this. I'm tired, but I'm doing well. I can't wait to speak to my family. The ambassador told me I should have a phone call lined up. And of course, I can't wait. I've been waiting for this for 2 years.
Now, Woodke was taken from his home in Abalak, Niger in 2016 by men who murdered his guards and drove him north towards Mali's border. His wife said that she believed that he'd been held by Jinim, although Washington has not yet identified any specific group. Gare Amadou brings us more about the men's release from Niger. Gare, thanks so much for speaking to us. Now, first of all, what kind of role did Niger play in securing the men's release?
Yeah, what we can say that Niger played a key role in, to make it possible to release the two prisoners, because let's say that Niger set up a kind of committee or staff that got in touch with some, let's say, Al-Qaeda members or some people who are linked with Al-Qaeda members, so that they made it possible to negotiate. What is possible to free Olivier Dubois and Jeffery Woodke. So I think that this is a process that Niger set up. Niger have a kind of experience on the process of freeing, let's say, hostages in Sahel.
Now, do we know any more about what may have gone into the exchange from France and the US's side in making sure that the men came home?
You know, at that moment, we didn't receive any information, let's say, big information about the process and which kind of negotiation was set up, which kind of committee, which kind of staff, who is member of the staff, and which, let's say, leader of Al-Qaeda is, let's say, the key person that make it possible to negotiate and so that to free the two persons. We didn't know anything about which kind of guarantee Al-Qaeda got from Niger authority of France or United States so that they can accept to free the two persons. So I think that maybe in coming days we will have more information about what has been done, because the first question that people are asking now is to know if the government of Niger, France or United States paid money as it is usual just to free, hostages in Sahel. So, did, Niger free, let's say, some Al-Qaeda members who are in jail in Niger, or what else? We don't have any information about it. Maybe we will have it in the coming days.
Now, did this come out of the blue? Because it seemed to be the first indication of it happening was as it was happening and the men arrived in Niger.
No, it didn't come out of blue, because this is, let's say, a result of a process. There's nothing without nothing. Let's say that we have a beginning, let's say a kind of get in contact with some persons, some persons who are in prison and some persons who are linked, let's say, to a former Tuareg rebellion or something like that, then we have to get in touch with some people who can go and talk with jihadists. So this is the process. This is not, let's say, a fluke or let's say a kind of coincidence or it happens like that without anything. No. This is, let's say, a result of a process that was, let's say, a kind of experience of negotiating of the government of Niger, and also, let's say, France and United States allow maybe Niger to go and get in touch and make it possible to free their nationals. So I think that this is not, let's say, a coincidence. It is a result of a long and very difficult process.
So the outcome of a painstaking process. Thank you so much there, Gary. We're now joined now by Arnaud Froger, who heads up Reporters Without Borders investigation desk. Arnaud, thanks so much for coming to speak to us. Now, I know that RSF actually did a lot to really push for Dubois' release. This must come as such a relief.
It is such a relief, especially given the fact that this journalist has been hostage for 2 years in very harsh conditions. You have to imagine like freezing nights, very hot days, sandstorms, and it's been 2 years. I mean, it's very rare for French journalists to be held hostage for that long. So it's such a relief. We have dispatched many banners in French cities. We have been very active into bringing some awareness about the case to put some kind of pressure so that we could get this result as fast as possible, although we know that it takes sometimes some time to get these things done.
Now, do situations like this have an effect on both the tactics being used by extremists operating in the region and also the willingness of workers like journalists and humanitarian workers to operate in the Sahel, in the region?
Yes, it does. On one hand, it gives the message that when you are getting to a journalist and you're taking him as an hostage, you have to imagine that it's going to take years, not even months, but years to secure some kind of a deal, whatever you want to bargain out of this. So that's one. And second, I think when you're a journalist, you know that if you want to go very far into the knowledge you want to have and into the information you want to display about a country, then you are exposing yourself to this kind of threats. And I think that now in the Sahel region, every journalist knows that if they want to really dig into what's happening there, they know that this is the kind of risks they're facing.
So what happens to the men now?
Well, he's going to be back in France tomorrow. Probably the authorities will have this set up for him, having this, healthcare checkup, also probably meeting with a psychologist, and also having some time for him to, be with his relatives. His wife is going to come tomorrow. He's going to meet his son again. He hasn't seen him for 2 years, so it's going to be also a good time for him tomorrow back in Paris. An
emotional reunion. Thanks very much, Arnaud Froger there, talking us through what may be in store for Olivier Dubois after his release from being held captive in the Sahel for 2 years. Well, in other news, in Kenya, a student's been killed during clashes between security forces and anti-government protests. The demonstrations were called by opposition leader Raila Odinga in condemnation of the rising cost of living. Fuel, electricity and staple foods have spiked in price just as the currency hit a slump, and record drought has left millions hungry. About 24 people are arrested in Monday's unrest. Our Vivian Wandera tells us more.
Odinga's mass action started with running battles between protesters and police in riot gear who fired tear gas at the stone-throwing protesters in Nairobi's Kibra slums. As the day progressed, similar scenes were seen around the city, with security being tight around State House and the Nairobi Central Business District. One person was shot and 2 legislators from the opposition were arrested and released at the end of the day. Despite being chased by the police, the protesters said they will not stop until their demands are met. Listen to some of them.
We can't accept this situation. We strongly support Raila over this and will spend the night here.
I've come here because of our country's economy. We struggle even to buy a packet of flour. And we have a family, rent to pay, and many other things. So we can't allow the police to throw tear gas at us and not let us demonstrate peacefully. If they throw the tear gas at us, we're forced to throw things at them.
After hours of waiting, the opposition leader finally showed up and attempted to march to the meeting point, despite calls by the country's deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, for him to call off the mass action. However, his plans were disrupted by police officers who fired tear gas and used water cannons to stop him and his supporters from accessing the Nairobi Central Business District. Odinga also claimed that his daughter Winnie was targeted by the government after her vehicle was damaged during the protests, and also alleged that a bullet was fired at his vehicle. While addressing his supporters in different parts of the city, he said that they will hold protests every Monday until their demands are met. The same protests were held in Kisumu, which is considered to be one of his strongholds.
Vivian Wandera there for us. Now, more accusations of underhand dealings have blighted Nigerian elections. This time, it's the weekend's local elections that observers say were marred by intimidation, violence and vote buying. The count continued on Monday night, but even so, the ruling APC party seems to have won the majority of governorships, where the tally has wrapped up. Saturday's election for 28 governors and more than 900 state assembly lawmakers came 3 weeks after the governing party won a presidential ballot that opposition candidates claim was massively rigged. Our Sam Olakoya talks us through.
It was a weekend of violence and bloodshed as Nigerian politicians jostled for power. At stake were state governorship and state parliamentary seats. In spite of heavy security presence, thugs carrying weapons like guns and knives had a field day unleashing violence to ensure victory for some politicians. Rivers State in the Niger Delta region was one of the worst affected, with 7 people killed. The dead include a staff of the Electoral Commission and a campaign coordinator for one of the political parties. Both were shot dead by thugs in separate incidents. In Ebonyi State, a local chairman of the main opposition People's Democratic Party was beaten to death by thugs. There were also cases of violence and killings in virtually all the other 28 states where governorship elections were held. Thugs attacked journalists, election observers, and voters. They also snatched ballot boxes and attacked collation centers in an attempt to influence election results. Security agents shot dead some thugs, while scores of others were arrested for election malpractices. The attacks are some of the worst election-related violence in recent times. The violence and use of thugs by politicians highlights the growing desperation for political power in Nigeria. Political office is quite attractive in Nigeria because of its potential for easy access to public funds in a country where there is little financial accountability.
Sam Olakoya there for us. Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us. See you so again. Take care.